Hello everyone, welcome back to Believer Science Academy, Bengaluru. This is daily news analysis. Today, that is 1st August 2024, we'll be discussing some important articles which are very significant from upcoming mains as well as upcoming prelims. So, first article is from the Hindu front page. It talks about Supreme Court pulls up Telangana speaker over delay in disqualification petitions. The context is the Supreme Court criticized the Telangana Assembly Speaker for delaying action on disqualification petitions filed under 10th schedule against 10 Bharat Rashtra Samiti MLAs who defected to the Congress party in 2024. Okay, so it is basically talking about the role of speaker with respect to defection. What is defection? It is present in 10th schedule of the constitution. So according to this, any MP or MLA who is elected from a particular party, if he jumps to another party, within a certified amount of time, then he is said to be defective. Then he is said to be conducted defection. As a result, he is liable to be disqualified, and the power to disqualify an individual or MLA lies at speaker. MLA or MP is at speaker. So this power to disqualify an individual by the speaker has been point of contention, because there is no specified time limit for there to be considered, and also there are certain various issues with respect to 10th schedule as well. That is, if 2 by 3 members defect together, then it is not considered as a individual, it is not considered as defection, it is rather considered as a party change itself. And if there is a nominated member who joins another party, then he is also considered as a defected. And also the role of speaker, that is not neutral and belongs to the ruling party, is itself a issue in itself. Key observations by the Supreme Court. Timeline for decision. Disqualification petitions must be decided within 3 months at most. Though there is no specific time period in the 10th schedule, now the Supreme Court directive has said that it has to be decided within 3 months. The criticism of delay. The Telangana speaker issued notices only after the matter was taken to the Supreme Court in January 2025, despite a 7-month gap. So Supreme Court criticized this delay. Pattern of delay. The court noted a trend across states where speakers delay decisions, rendering anti-defection law ineffective. Next is adverse interference. Adverse inference. The court directed that adverse inference can be drawn against an MLA who attempts to delay proceedings. Okay, so this is what is happening. So Supreme Court also gave some directives on the role of speaker. The role of speaker in the original constitution was expected to be neutral. That is what CJI Gawai quoted that Rajesh Pilot, highlighting that speaker was chosen to decide defection cases to avoid judicial delays. But in this particular case, the speaker is not acting in neutral position, and instead he is delaying the judiciary. Next is question of trust. The judgment questions whether the parliament's trust in the speaker or chairman to act impartially has been upheld in the last 30 years. Okay, so according to judiciary, they feel that the neutrality position of the speaker in the Lok Sabha and chairman in the Rajya Sabha with legislative council has not been upheld. Next, constitutional status. The speaker, while acting under the 10th schedule, does not enjoy constitutional discretion or constitutional immunity from judicial review. Okay, so this was also a point of contention, whether the decision of the speaker is final or binding, whether the decision of speaker can be appealed in court or not. Now with this directive, it can be appealed in the court. Significance for the governance. The judicial oversight. The judicial oversight or the role of Supreme Court in this particular case reinforces the Supreme Court's supervisory role in ensuring timely adjudication of defection cases. Strengthening anti-defection law. The court calls for Parliament to re-evaluate the current mechanism under the 10th schedule. Despite the presence of 10th schedule, the defection has not gone down. Instead, this defection is putting burden on the courts as well. So there has to be a revisiting of this law. Next, ethics in politics. Highlights how delayed action erodes the spirit of democratic accountability and public trust. So this is the first article. And the second article is from the science column of the Hindu, which talks about India's malaria elimination by 2030, innovation, vaccines, and challenges. A very important article. India aims to eliminate malaria by 2030. Despite an 80% reduction in malaria cases between 2015 and 2023, high incidence pockets like tribal districts in Mizoram and Chhattisgarh reveal persistent transmission. The fight now focuses on asymptomatic carriers, remote geographics, and parasite resilience. Okay, these are the fight now. The fight is now focusing on asymptomatic carriers, remote geographies, and parasite resilience. What they are doing now? At present, the current vaccine landscape is RTS or Mosquirix, that is the current vaccine. It was first approved as a malaria vaccine in 2021. In the first year, it proved 55% efficacy and wanes by 18 months. That is the issue, that there is immunity, okay, which it provides in the beginning years. However, after 18 months, the effect waits on. Next is, it requires at least 4 doses. And second one is R21 Matrix M, developed by Oxford plus Serum Institute of India, at to 77% efficacy compared to Mosquirix, and it has been WHO approved in 2023. Fewer doses, lower cost, and indigenously made. Okay, this is very important for us. R21 Matrix M. Next generation vaccine technologies. Okay, in vaccines there are 4 generations: first gen, second, third, and fourth. First generation was which focused on using active or dead parasites. What they used to do is they used to use active or dead parasites and infuse them in the body of the individual so that the body builds immunity. In case when the real disease attacks you, then the immunity releases the antibodies, releases the antigens there. And the second generation, what they used to happen was, instead of active or dead body, instead of dead, they started using active, okay, active bodies, so that they get more immunity. And in the third, it was DNA based, where they started teaching this, where they started altering the DNA itself. And the fourth was RNA vaccines. So here they teach the immunity of the body to react against the antigens without ever needing to infuse these active or dead pathogens. So this is what the vaccines have developed over the period of time. Now there is a next generation vaccine technology, of which are whole parasite vaccines. What is this whole parasite vaccines? In that there are 2, that is PF-SPZ, that is radiation weakened sporozoites, and 96% antibody response and 79% protection past 3 doses. Next, PF-SPZ LARC2, 1 dose potential, targets outbreak zones and migrants. Next is blood stage vaccines, PF-RH5, targets red blood cell invasion and provides cross-strain protection. Next is transmission blocking vaccines, that are called as TBVs, PF230D1. It reduces transmission by 78%. These are the next generation vaccines which we will be going to use in the future. And within the transmission blocking vaccines, there is AD Falsivax, which is made in India. It is the first indigenous dual stage TBV with promising preclinical test results. PVS 230DT1, it targets P. vivax, shown 96% mosquito transmission reduction. 96%, it is a very significant improvement. Next, how do you boost immune responses? Boosting the immune responses. First is ferritin nanoparticle plus CPG, cut liver stage parasite burden by 95% in mice, and add Falsivax with alum, achieved 90% protection. So here, with the vaccines, you are developing immunity, but vaccines alone are not enough. So you are trying to build or boost the immunity. How you are doing is, along with this ferritin nanoparticle vaccine, you are going to use CPG. Along with this add Falsivax alum, you are going to use with alum. Okay, Alfaxi is a vaccine. Along with that, you are going to use alum. Next is mRNA platforms such as PF25 by CureVac or NHE, and it is promising, but BioNet techs candidate under hold by FDA because mRNA vaccines have a tendency to have negative implications, so they are holding it off. Next is immune system tweaks. CSP MP1, MIP3, enhanced antibody and T cell response in mice, and D1D VIG antibody blocks RIFIN or RIFIN proteins from shutting down immune cells, novel therapeutic approach. Okay, so this is a futuristic in nature. Next, vector innovation, which focuses on gene drives and genetic edits. Here, gene drives or sterility genes eliminated Anopheles colonies lab. Next is FREP edit that blocked parasite development in mosquitoes. Next is self-limiting mosquitoes, that is die sooner only when infected, curbing transmission. Okay, so this is like instead of treating the patients, that is the human beings, or vaccinating the human beings, why not treat the sources? Which is the source here? Mosquitoes. So how are you going to treat the sources? Through gene editing. Gene editing. What you will do in gene editing? You will find the genes which are responsible for the transmission, and you try to either one suppress it so that it doesn't express malaria. That is what they are doing is sterility genes. How do you suppress it? By reducing the population. So here you are going to add sterility genes so that they do not produce any more offspring. Second is block parasite development, that is they block the parasite development in the mosquitoes so that it suppresses. And the third is, as soon as the mosquito gets infected by these parasites, the mosquito starts dying. So instead of supporting or treating the patients, now you are treating the source itself. So these are futuristic again, but most of them are on the rise now. Now, what with respect to India? India's challenges and strategic needs. One is PVOX vaccine R&D stalled earlier due to lack of monkey models and foresight. Next is current focus on translating lab success to trials. One is you are getting lab success, but you are not translating it to trials because, for example, Falsi vaccine is now seeking industrial partners via ICMR's EOI. So even though it is easy to produce in the lab, it is difficult to translate it to the whole scale to the market. Next, regulatory, manufacturing and benchmarking gaps remain. Next is critical needs are trained personnel, drug or vaccine resistance surveillance, strengthened public health systems, and interagency and center state coordination. Okay, this is an article which was very important. Next is third article, which talks about transforming early childhood care and education, NEP 2020 in action contest. It is again an editorial from the Hindu which talks about the significance of National Education Policy 2020 in transforming early childhood care as well as education. Context is the National Education Policy 2020 marks a structural transformation of India's education, that is ECC, that is early childhood care and education system, by integrating 3 to 6 year old children into formal education, thereby attempting to bridge historical inequalities in access to early learning. Three key structural shifts in ECCE is expansion of ECCE in government schools. Earlier, only Anganwadis catered to 6 to 3 years old in the public sector. NEP 2020 enables Balvatika, that is preschool classes between 1 to 3 in government schools, has also been enabled by NEP 2020. From 3 to 6, now 1 to 3 are also under the school now. This expansion requires recruitment and training of ECC educator, budget support via Samagra Shiksha. Next is the status is some states and union territories, example Dadra and Nagar Haveli, have adopted this, others lag or underutilize the funding. Next is shift in parental preference from Anganwadis to schools. Preschool education is now preferred in schools or Anganwadis due to pursued better learning outcomes. Why started from 3 to 6 years of age when you can start it from 1 to 3? Next, resulting migration could weaken the role of Anganwadis unless reforms are made. We have to wake up and we have to establish our increase Anganwadis so that the Anganwadis are made less relevant, so that they are not made less relevant. Next is risk is over schoolification, meaning pushing rote literacy and numeracy too early. NEP stresses play based holistic learning that has to come through Anganwadis. Next, initiatives like Poshan B or Padai B aims to integrate education into Anganwadi functioning. Okay. Next, reorienting Anganwadis to 0 to 3 years olds. Okay. Critical cognitive and emotional developments happen in the first 100 days, 1000 days. Anganwadi workers are currently overburdened and focus more on 3 to 6 year olds. Reallocating responsibility, that is, schools handle 3 to 6 years old and Anganwadi shift to 0 to 3 years olds, and maternal care, primarily via home visits, is going to give better outcomes. Next is supported by global and Indian research. That is, some of the research are Perry preschool study, EL Pratham study, insights from Niti Aayog and Poshan Abhiyan. They say that if we shift early schooling from schools, like early childhood care from schools to Anganwadi, it is giving better outcomes. Next is way forward. How you are going to address this? Policy coherence and implementation between Ministry of Education and Ministry of Women and Child Development. Clear role definition between schools and Anganwadis. Adequate funding, capacity building, and monitoring of ECCE initiatives. Avoid narrowing learning to reading learning rating. Maintain play-based pedagogy. Promote home-based parenting support for under 3s as well. Okay, so along with education, early childhood care is also very important, so that the genetic potential of the kids in terms of cognitive development is reached. Okay. Next, there is an editorial of more like interview between two peoples, which talked about the ICJ ruling on climate change advisory or actionable. That is ICJ's International Court of Justice. We will see what is there in the article. On July 23, 2025, the International Court of Justice issued a landmark advisory opinion reaffirming legal obligations of states to mitigate climate change, need to reduce GHG emissions, support for vulnerable nations. While hailed by some as a moral and legal milestone, its actual impact remains debated. Though it is providing certain legal obligations, but whether the countries are actually following it or not, that is the debate. Nature and limitations of the ruling. It is just advisory opinion. When it is advisory, it is not legally binding, and there is no enforceability mechanism which are available with ICJ, and cannot compel states to act or pay reparations. Sovereignty limits the international court's ability to impose economic penalties. So Ted Northers, who is one of the interviewer, who is being interviewed here, he says that no sovereign will dismantle its energy system because a court tells them to do. So that is what the case here. Challenges in attributing climate harm. Difficult to prove direct causation between nations' emissions and a specific event or damage. Okay, because so many nations are releasing emissions and so many events are happening around the world, and you cannot pinpoint because of this particular reason this event has happened. Okay, that is a reason, and requires distinguishing between natural variability and anthropogenic climate change, a scientifically and largely complex task. Many say that climate change is because of human beings. Now, however, in the past, it is seen that climate change has happened even before the anthropology causes. That is also called as Milankovitch cycle. Okay, Milankovitch cycle, which shows that Earth has gone from periods of glaciation, deglaciation, glaciation, deglaciation. If this is the glaciation, this is the deglaciation, glaciation, deglaciation. These periods are called as Milankovitch cycles. So this has happened even before the presence of human beings on the Earth. So you cannot completely pinpoint whether the present climate change is largely because of human beings or largely because of natural causes. That is one of the issue. Next, historical responsibility and reparations. Is it realistic or rhetorical? Rich nations have shown little commitment to paying for climate reparations. The Paris Climate Agreement demanded $100 billion per year, $100 billion per year for climate adoption and climate mitigation. However, that has not been done. And also, according to new report, we need 1.3 trillion, $1.3 trillion per year, which $1.3 trillion sorry is needed to address the climate change. However, we were able to only raise $300 billion, which is nowhere near what is required. Next, the loss and damage fund has seen only limited contributions, often rebranded as development aid. Even enforceable rulings can be blocked by political actors, for example, UN Security Council. If the USA can ignore global norms, how can we expect others to comply? That is Anand Grover, who is the person who is interviewing here. Then domestic usefulness, a silver lining. That is, domestic courts can now cite the ICJ opinion to argue for stronger climate action. Okay, if ICJ doesn't have the power over sovereign rights of a particular country, then the country's premier courts, such as Supreme Court in India, can enforce these with the help of this ICJ ruling. They can use the ICJ opinion to argue for a stronger state action. Useful especially for vulnerable island nations, public interest litigations, and civil society campaigns. Next is technological and political shifts. Earlier, the idea of new tech flowing from West to developing countries is outdated. Now, China and India lead in clean tech exports. Eco-modernist perspective suggests innovation, not litigation, will drive decarbonization. Okay, instead of litigation, meaning one blaming the other, we need innovation, which is going to help large in case of decarbonizing. So, technology flows in many directions now. The 1990s framework is obsolete. That is, it has to transfer from West to the developing countries is outdated now, according to Ted Nordhaus. Okay, so why the world needs better technologies? This we cannot cover in the video because we already covered this one. If you want to read some articles or if you want to read about this, we will be uploading in the website. You can check out the website. Next, previous points. First is, what is Schengen visa? Okay, what is Schengen visa? A definition is a short-term visa allowing non-EU nationals to visit or transit through Schengen area. What is the Schengen area? Schengen area is consisting of 29 European countries. So with the Schengen visa, you can travel across all these European countries, that is 29 European countries. Validity up to 90 days in any 180-day period. Purpose, tourism, business, family visits, medical treatment, cultural or sports event. Restrictions, it does not permit employment. Okay, you can do all these things, but you cannot focus for employment there. You cannot go for employment. Schengen area coverage, according to 2025 report, there are total 29 countries, 25 European Union states except Ireland and Cyprus, and 4 EFTA members, that is Ireland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. All these together are considered as Schengen area. Key feature, no internal borders among member states, unified external border control. Cascade visa scheme. Recently, there was a cascade visa scheme which was announced. As a result, this Schengen visa is in use. Introduced by European New Commission for trusted Indian travelers. Rewards travelers with a positive visa history. Tiered visa validity, that is 1 year visa if 3 Schengen visas used in last 2 years, 2-year visa if 1 year multi-entry visa has been used in last 2 years, and 5-year visa if 2-year multi-entry visa was used in the last 3 years. Not very significant, but what we need to know is Schengen area and Schengen visa. And the final article for the day is Mount Silo. So there is a news about Mount Silo that the glaciers of the Mount Silo have decreased by almost 50%. The location is, it is present in southeast Anatolia. Anatolia is part of Turkey near the Iraqi border. Mountain range is the easternmost extension of the Taurus Mountains. Altitude is at 4,135 meters, second highest in Turkey after Mount Ararat. Next is tectonic context, part of Alpine Himalayan fault system formed by convergence of Arabian, Anatolian and Eurasian plates. So plate tectonic is at the forefront here. Next, physical features, rugged terrain, steep limestone cliffs, deep gorges and glacial valleys. Next is major peaks are Uludorok, Superdorok, Kosedubski, Kisara, and Mount Siri. All these things are related topics. So impact of climate changes. So nearly 50% of Mount Silo's ice cover was lost in last 40 years. Turkey recorded 50.5 degrees Celsius worsening heat waves and droughts in the recent years. Consequences is accelerated glacier melt, threatening water security, biodiversity, and regional microclimates. So these are the Mount Silo or the impact of climate change on Mount Silo can be used as your answers, can be used in your answer to support impacts of climate change. So these are the articles which I want to discuss with you today. If you like the video, then please hit the like button, comment on it, and also share with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.